Imagine a place, nestled in the quiet countryside, a picture of rustic charm from a distance. But behind the weathered fences and the deceptively peaceful facade, a grim secret festered. A world where innocence was a commodity and suffering, a daily routine. Few could have guessed the darkness that thrived there, or that an unexpected encounter, a moment of profound empathy from a figure known for his quiet kindness, was about to pierce through the veil of cruelty. What happens when such a heart stumbles upon such a horror? The answer is a story of despair, defiance, and a transformation so profound it almost defies belief, a testament to how one compassionate soul can rewrite a narrative of pain into one of hope. The woman at the center of this operation, let's call her Ms. Albright, presented an unremarkable, even pleasant face to the few who interacted with her. She was known locally as a private individual, perhaps a bit reclusive, who simply bred dogs. But beneath this veneer of normalcy was a chillingly pragmatic mind, laser-focused on a single objective: maximizing profit. Every decision, every action was dictated by the bottom line, with the welfare of the living creatures in her care treated as an inconvenient afterthought, a cost to be minimized at all turns. Her public persona was a carefully constructed shield, deflecting scrutiny and allowing her to continue her cruel enterprise. Inside the confines of her property, the air was thick with the stench of ammonia, uncleaned waste, and the pervasive odor of neglect. The constant cacophony of desperate barks and whimpers from countless dogs, a symphony of misery, was a stark contrast to the quiet countryside outside. Cages, often too small and rusted, were stacked one upon another, crammed with animals deprived of basic comforts: no soft bedding, no clean water, no space to move freely. Veterinary care was a luxury rarely afforded, with illnesses and injuries left to fester, a testament to the profound disregard for their suffering. It was a factory of despair hidden in plain sight. The cycle of cruelty was relentless and heartbreaking. Mother dogs, their bodies worn down by continuous breeding, were forced to produce litter after litter, treated as mere reproductive machines until they were too broken or too sick to be profitable. Puppies, often sickly and under-socialized, were torn from their mothers far too early, packaged and sold to unsuspecting buyers who were unaware of the horrific conditions from which these tiny, fragile lives originated. Each sale fueled the cycle, perpetuating the suffering and lining Albright's pockets, while the animals themselves were stripped of their dignity and their right to a humane existence, viewed only as inventory. Ms. Albright was cunning in maintaining her operation's secrecy. Sales were often conducted online, with carefully curated photos that hid the grim reality, or through clandestine meetings in public places, far from the prying eyes that might discover the truth of her puppy mill. She cultivated an image of a small-scale, perhaps slightly old-fashioned breeder, a far cry from the industrial-scale cruelty she orchestrated. This careful management of appearances made it incredibly difficult for her activities to be detected or proven, allowing the suffering to continue unchecked for far too long, a dark secret protected by layers of deception. The psychological toll on the animals was immense and devastating. Many dogs were fearful, withdrawn, exhibiting signs of severe trauma from a lifetime of confinement and neglect. Others were apathetic, their spirits seemingly crushed by the unending monotony of their bleak existence. Chronic health problems, stemming from poor nutrition, lack of medical care, and unsanitary conditions, were rampant. Imagine a small terrier, Lily, who had never felt grass beneath her paws, or an older spaniel, Max, whose eyes held only a deep, vacant sadness. These were not just numbers. They were individual souls trapped in a nightmare, their silent pleas for help unheard. There was a pervasive sense of hopelessness surrounding the puppy mill, a feeling that Ms. Albright operated with impunity, her cruel enterprise seemingly invisible to the outside world. How could such systematic abuse persist in a society that professed to care for animals? The question hung heavy in the air, a silent accusation against the indifference or ignorance that allowed such places to thrive. For the dogs imprisoned, within each day was a repeat of the last, a grim existence with no apparent end in sight, their suffering a hidden stain on the community. One day, quite by chance, Keanu Reeves found himself in the vicinity. He was taking a break from a demanding schedule, seeking a moment of quiet contemplation in the countryside, perhaps on a long motorcycle ride, letting the open road clear his mind. He wasn't looking for trouble, nor was he on any specific mission. It was a simple detour, a turn down an unfamiliar rural road that would unknowingly set him on a path to uncovering something deeply disturbing. His presence there was a serendipitous accident, a random event that would soon have profound consequences. As he passed by Ms. Albright's property, something caught his attention. Not overtly alarming at first, but a subtle disharmony in the otherwise tranquil setting. Perhaps it was an unusual sound carried on the wind, a fleeting glimpse of something through a gap in the fence, or just an intuitive feeling that something was amiss. Keanu, known for his observant nature and quiet perceptiveness, couldn't quite shake the feeling. It was a small, nagging inconsistency that his mind registered, a slight tremor in the peaceful facade that piqued his innate curiosity. This initial curiosity soon began to morph into a growing unease, then a distinct suspicion. Keanu Reeves, a man whose empathy is often palpable even through a screen, possesses a keen sensitivity to suffering. He found himself drawn back to the area, a quiet pull he couldn't ignore. He began to observe more closely, though still from a distance, trying to understand the source of his disquiet. His instincts, honed by a lifetime of observing human and animal nature, was screaming that something was fundamentally wrong behind those unassuming fences. He couldn't just ride away. The horrifying truth began to unveil itself in fragments. During one of his discreet observations, perhaps under the cover of dusk or an early morning mist, Keanu witnessed an undeniable act of neglect or cruelty, or managed to get a clearer view of the appalling conditions within. It might have been the sight of dogs crammed into tiny, filthy enclosures, or the sound of an animal in distress being harshly silenced. Whatever it was enough to confirm his deepest fears, painting a grim picture of the suffering that was being systematically inflicted within those walls. The impact on Keanu was immediate and profound, a wave of shock, quickly followed by a deep sadness and a simmering righteous anger washed over him. The sight of such calculated cruelty, especially towards defenseless animals, struck at the core of his compassionate nature. This wasn't an abstract problem. It was real, tangible suffering happening right there. His gentle demeanor often masks a fierce sense of justice, and that justice was now thoroughly outraged. The images he witnessed would sear themselves into his memory, fueling a resolve. In that moment, a silent decision formed in Keanu's mind. He could not, would not, turn a blind eye and simply walk away. The knowledge of what was happening was a burden he now carried, and with it came a responsibility to act. But how? He knew that a rash, impulsive move could do more harm than good, potentially alerting Ms. Albright and jeopardizing any chance of a successful intervention. The situation was complex, requiring not just passion, but also careful thought and a strategic approach to ensure the animal's safety and bring the perpetrator to justice. Keanu began to gather information with quiet diligence, a shadow moving with purpose. He documented what he could from a safe distance, patterns of activity, the number of vehicles, anything that might build a case. He was meticulous, understanding that solid evidence would be crucial. His celebrity status, which he usually shied away from, was now a tool he considered using, but only in the most strategic way, to amplify the right voices at the right time, not to grandstand. He operated with a quiet intensity, driven by the images of the suffering he had witnessed. The process was fraught with difficulty and inherent risk. He had to remain undetected, as any hint that Ms. Albright was under scrutiny could lead her to destroy evidence or move the animals, making a rescue even more challenging. He moved with caution, blending into the rural landscape, his actions a stark contrast to the flamboyant heroism often depicted in his films. This was real-life heroism, quiet, patient, and methodical, born out of a deep-seated need to alleviate suffering. Recognizing the limits of what he could achieve alone, Keanu reached out, using his connections and his own research to find reputable animal welfare organizations and potentially sympathetic local authorities. This was a critical step, requiring him to place his trust in others, to share the horrifying information he had gathered, and to collaborate on a plan. He navigated this process with care, ensuring he was speaking to people who were genuinely committed to animal justice and capable of effective action, avoiding those who might be apathetic or worse. A plan began to take shape, not for a vigilante raid, but for a coordinated legal intervention. Keanu's role evolved from discoverer to a crucial catalyst and witness, providing the information and impetus needed for official channels to act. The strategy focused on ensuring the animal's safe removal and the collection of irrefutable evidence against Ms. Albright. It was a testament to his understanding that true, lasting change often comes through systematic, lawful processes, even When fueled by passionate outrage, he was building a case. The tension during this period was almost unbearable. Ms. Albright continued her cruel business, oblivious to the fact that her hidden world was about to be exposed. Each day that passed was another day of suffering for the animals, a reality that weighed heavily on Keanu. He watched and waited, the plan slowly coming together, the pieces aligning for the moment when action could finally be taken. The contrast between her callous routine and the meticulous preparations for her downfall was stark. Finally, the preparations were complete. Keanu had provided his testimony and evidence, and a dedicated team from animal control and law enforcement, galvanized by the information, was ready to move. There was a quiet determination among them, a shared understanding of the horrors they were likely to uncover, and a commitment to bringing relief to the suffering animals. Keanu, though not leading the charge in a physical sense, was the moral compass that had guided them to this point, his quiet insistence on action having set the wheels of justice in motion. The day of the official intervention arrived. Authorities, armed with a warrant based on the evidence Keanu had helped gather, converged on Ms. Albright's property. It wasn't a dramatic Hollywood-style raid, but a methodical professional operation. The surprise on Albright's face was palpable as officers explained the reason for their presence. Her carefully constructed world of secrecy and profit was beginning to crumble around her, the law finally catching up to her cruelty. Ms. Albright's reaction was a mixture of disbelief, denial, and perhaps a dawning realization of the severity of her situation. She may have attempted to obstruct, to rationalize her actions, or to feign ignorance, but the evidence was mounting with every step the authorities took onto her property. Her facade of the harmless, reclusive breeder shattered completely, revealing the cold, calculating individual who had profited from so much pain for so long. Her reign of cruelty was over. As the doors to the barns and outbuildings were opened, the full, unadulterated horror of the puppy mill was laid bare. The stench, the sounds, the sight of countless animals in deplorable conditions. It was a scene that would shock even seasoned animal welfare officers. The scale of the neglect was staggering. Each cage, each suffering animal, was a testament to Ms. Albright's profound inhumanity and a vindication of Keanu's suspicions and his decision to act. The truth was out. Then came the rescue itself, a delicate and emotional process. Animal welfare workers, gentle and compassionate, began carefully removing the dogs from their prisons. Many were terrified, cowering in the backs of their cages, unaccustomed to human kindness. Others were too weak to stand. Each animal carried out was a small victory, a life saved from that living hell. The sheer number of animals was overwhelming, a logistical challenge born from unimaginable greed. Keanu was present, not as a celebrity seeking the spotlight, but as a concerned citizen, a quiet pillar of support. He watched the proceedings, his expression a mixture of sorrow for what these animals had endured and profound relief that they were finally safe. He might have offered a comforting word to a distressed rescuer or gently helped coax a frightened dog from its cage, his actions always understated, always focused on the animal's well-being. His presence was a silent reassurance that compassion was now in charge. The raw emotion of that day was overwhelming. There were tears of sadness for the suffering witnessed, but also tears of relief and hope. The air, once thick with despair, began to fill with the promise of a new beginning. For these broken creatures, the first steps towards freedom and healing were being taken, right there on the grounds that had once been their prison. For Keanu, seeing these animals finally being treated with the dignity they deserved was a profoundly moving experience. The immediate aftermath saw Ms. Albright facing serious legal charges. The evidence collected was extensive and damning, painting a clear picture of systematic animal cruelty and neglect. The wheels of justice, though sometimes slow, began to turn, promising accountability for her actions. The puppy mill operation was shut down permanently, its dark chapter finally closed, ensuring no more animals would suffer within its walls. Her world of illicit profit had imploded. The rescued dogs, numbering in the hundreds, were transported to temporary shelters and veterinary clinics. Many required urgent medical attention for a host of conditions: malnutrition, dehydration, severe dental disease, untreated injuries, and skin infections. The initial days were critical, focusing on stabilizing their health, providing proper nutrition, and beginning the long process of showing them that not all humans were cruel. Each small improvement was a victory. The sheer number of animals presented an enormous challenge for local shelters which were suddenly inundated. Resources were stretched thin. space, medical supplies, food, and manpower. The emotional toll on the rescuers and shelter staff was also significant, as they worked tirelessly to care for these deeply traumatized animals, each one with a heartbreaking story etched into its fearful eyes and emaciated body. It was a crisis demanding an extraordinary response. Keanu Reeves, true to his nature, did not simply walk away once the animals were rescued. He understood that the rescue was just the beginning of their journey. He reportedly made significant discreet donations to the organizations caring for the dogs, ensuring they had the resources needed for veterinary care, rehabilitation, and food. He also used his influence quietly, encouraging others to support the cause, rallying help for these forgotten victims without drawing attention to himself. His commitment was unwavering. As the animals began their slow journey to recovery, the question of the property itself arose. The land, the buildings, all were tainted by the memory of the cruelty that had occurred there. It stood as a monument to suffering. Then, a bold, transformative idea began to take root, reportedly sparked by Keanu himself or those he inspired. What if this place of horror could be reclaimed? What if it could be reborn as something entirely different, something positive? The seed of this incredible idea was the notion of turning the former puppy mill, a place of unimaginable darkness, into a beacon of hope and healing, a dedicated rescue and rehabilitation center. It was an audacious concept, to take the very ground where so much pain had been inflicted and transform it into a sanctuary. This was not just about rescuing animals, it was about redeeming a place, rewriting its history from one of cruelty to one of profound compassion. The decision was made, with Keanu reportedly playing a pivotal role, perhaps providing the primary funding or the vision to acquire the property. The goal was clear: to eradicate every trace of its grim past and build something new, something beautiful, something that would honor the animals who had suffered there and provide a safe haven for future rescues. It was a powerful statement against cruelty, a defiant act of creation in the face of destruction. The transformation process was monumental. Volunteers and professionals worked tirelessly, first to demolish the wretched structures that had housed the puppy mill, symbolically cleansing the land. Then new buildings began to rise: bright, airy kennels, spacious play areas, a modern veterinary clinic, and comfortable spaces for staff and volunteers. Every aspect of the design focused on the well-being and rehabilitation of animals, a complete reversal of its former purpose. The local community, inspired by the vision and Keanu's quiet involvement, rallied to the cause. Donations poured in, not just money, but also supplies, building materials, and countless hours of volunteer labor. Animal behaviorists, trainers, and veterinarians offered their expertise. It became a collective effort, a testament to what can be achieved when people unite for a compassionate purpose, turning a symbol of shame into a source of community pride. Finally, the day arrived for the grand opening of the new Second Chance Rescue Center, a fictional name for narrative. What was once a place of unimaginable suffering was now a state-of-the-art facility, filled with light, hope, and the happy sounds of animals on their journey to recovery. It was a place designed not for profit, but for healing, offering a true second chance to animals rescued from cruelty and neglect, a beautiful phoenix risen from the ashes of despair. Some of the very dogs rescued from Ms. Albright's puppy mill, now healthier and more confident, were among the first residents of the new center. To see them exploring their new spacious enclosures, playing in grassy yards, and receiving gentle affection from caregivers was an incredibly moving sight. It was the ultimate happy ending for them, a stark, joyful contrast to the bleak, cramped cages that had once defined their existence. Their spirits, once broken, were slowly mending. Keanu Reeves, it said, visited the center quietly after its completion. He walked the grounds, not seeking applause or recognition, but simply observing the joyful transformation. He saw dogs playing, tails wagging, eyes bright with newfound trust. For him, this was the true reward, witnessing the tangible outcome of compassion in action, seeing a place of profound darkness utterly and beautifully remade into a sanctuary of light and love, a lasting legacy of kindness. This incredible journey from the discovery of a horrific secret to the creation of a life-saving sanctuary stands as a powerful reminder that even in the face of overwhelming cruelty, compassion and decisive action can bring about extraordinary change. It underscores that one person's empathy, when translated into deeds, can ripple outwards, inspiring others and literally transforming worlds. If this story of resilience and redemption has touched you, consider supporting your local animal shelters and rescue organizations. They are on the front lines every day, fighting for animals in need. Please consider adopting if you can, or volunteering your time. Share this story to spread awareness about the realities of puppy mills and the incredible power of kindness. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and let us know in the comments how this remarkable transformation made you feel.